Welcome to episode 188 of Build Your House Yourself University, BYHYU. I'm your host and fellow student, Michelle Nelson, and together we'll learn the basics of home design and construction and demystify the building process so we can build energy-efficient, quality dream homes with or without a general contractor. This week, we'll review a previously built energy-efficient home so you can consider some of the materials and methods for your own homes. The case study house is an affordable greenhouse that costs $114 per square foot and is located in Seattle, Washington, where the average house is $200 per square foot. You probably know that Seattle, Washington is a fairly damp region. It has 38 inches of rain and 5 inches of snow per year. The summer high temperature in July is around 76 degrees, and the average winter low is 37. Now remember, it's important to consider the climate where a house is built so you can compare it to the weather in the region you plan to build. That way you can use or tweak the methods or materials in the case study homes and make the appropriate choices for your climate. Before we learn more about that case study house, shouts out and big old thank yous go to two listeners who gave me 5-star ratings and reviews. The first is Ryan and Hannah, who say that the podcast is just what they are looking for. And to mthur1531, who titled the review, The Trusted Advisor and Friend. Wow, that's so sweet. Thank you so much. Thanks for your kind words and for giving back to the podcast by telling potential listeners that the show has been helpful. All right, let's get into that case study house. Many people think that building a greenhouse is exponentially more expensive than standard construction. But this week's case study house is an example of how to build a greenhouse affordably. The homeowners chose to put a big part of the home's budget into making the shell of the house or the building envelope tight and making R values high. And to make the house more affordable for everything else, they chose efficiency and practicality over luxury and glamour. The idea is that you can always upgrade the cosmetics later, as the budget allows. But it's not as easy to upgrade the home's shell and building envelope with things like windows and insulation, so it's best to spend more on those things up front. The homeowner weighed passive house standards against net zero standards. Passive house aims to minimize or eliminate mechanical heating and air conditioning systems, while net zero design uses heating and air conditioning, but aims for the house to produce as much energy as it uses, and it does that through solar panels or other renewable energy sources. The homeowner of the case study house decided to seek the most cost-effective route to reach or surpass net zero, even if it required an HVAC system larger than one that would be used in a certified passive house. So let's talk about the specifics of the home's design. This affordable greenhouse has 2 stories and an open floor plan with 3 bedrooms, and it's just over 1,900 square feet. It was constructed with structural insulated panels, or SIPs. Pop quiz. Do you remember what SIPs are? We learned about SIPs back in episode 31. Remember? Well, SIPs, or structural insulated panels, are an alternative to traditional wood or stick framing. SIPs are comprised of a center core of foam insulation sandwiched between 2 sheets of OSB sheathing. The homeowner of the case study house bought a set of house plans for $1,275 and had an architect modify those plans slightly to make the design more affordable and to let in more natural light. To make the house more affordable, they eliminated some things that they didn't need, like the garage, since they didn't own a car. They also eliminated the basement, since in damp Seattle, basements tend to have problems with mildew. Instead, they chose a less expensive slab foundation. That slab foundation also let them save money on first floor flooring, since they could stain and polish the slab and use it as their finished flooring. Interestingly, the design also admitted a heat recovery ventilator, or HRV. A heat recovery ventilator is an energy-efficient ventilation system that consists of 2 air ducts, one that carries fresh air in and one that carries stale air out. Both incoming and outgoing air pass through a heat exchanger, and the heat exchanger allows heat to transfer from one airstream to the other depending on how the temperature inside the house needs to be adjusted. Although the HRV is thought to be an energy-efficient product, the homeowners thought it would be more cost-effective to add a few more watts of PV solar panels, which they planned on using to meet their net zero standard. They opted for a less expensive ventilation system without any heat recovery. Their ventilation system consisted of several exhaust fans, one in each bathroom, one in the laundry room, and one in the kitchen. The exhaust fan in the upstairs bathroom was motion activated, and it ran steadily at a low rate, but then it ramps up when someone enters the room. When the powerful exhaust fan in the kitchen is switched on, it also activates the Vantech supply fan, which sends fresh air to all 3 bedrooms and the living room. The supply fan includes a HEPA filter too. In addition to this somewhat unusual ventilation system, to save money, the house has a unichiller, air-to-water heat pump. And that was originally designed as a remote cooling unit for industrial refrigeration. That unit costs only a fraction of the cost of a comparable home HVAC system. They keep the house at 69 degrees in the winter, and they have a very comfortable 55% relative humidity. Except for electric radiant heat under the bathroom tile floors, they eliminated almost all heat delivery to the upstairs rooms. Now, they do have radiant heat in the downstairs living room, but the radiant heat in the living room is hydronic radiant heat that's embedded in the concrete slab. Remember, hydronic radiant heat uses heated water to heat the slab. The radiant heat generated on the first floor circulates freely in this open concept house, and since heat naturally rises, it keeps the loft area warm. The 2 enclosed upstairs bedrooms stay 1 to 2 degrees cooler than the rest of the house. But that's a sacrifice the homeowners were willing to make for not having to install an upstairs radiant heat floor system. And the house has no air conditioning. To make the house more livable, the homeowners added fiberglass insulation between the first and second floors as soundproofing. And they plan to add flexible rubber hosing from the heat pump to the exterior wall as a sound deadening measure. Now, let's talk more specifically about the cost of this affordable greenhouse. The cost of the land was $180,000. And construction, PV system, which are the solar panels, taxes, and permits added up to another $237,000. The 6.4 kilowatt solar panel system cost $32,696 before rebates, and that brings the total to $449,696, or almost $450,000. But after rebates and tax credits, the total cost of the house was lowered to $399,000, or $114 per square foot. Now remember, the average cost of new residential construction in Seattle is $200 per square foot, so they saved quite a bit. Keep in mind that in addition to being less expensive than the average house in Seattle, this greenhouse will save about $1,800 per year in energy costs because of its net zero standard. After living in the house for a year, the homeowners found that even their unconventional choices made the house comfortable in all seasons of the year. And they also surpassed the net energy goal. And over the years, the solar panels produced more energy than the homeowners used. And they still have enough room to add more solar panels to the roof if they wanted to produce even more energy. One piece of advice they have for homeowners is to find a trustworthy builder who shares your vision. They liked how their builder found budget-friendly solutions, like using trees from the site to make decorative beams for the house. In an effort to borrow less money from the bank, the homeowners asked the builder if they could do some of the labor on the project and leave some of the upstairs rooms partially unfinished. The builder was willing to do that for the homeowners, but the bank was not. After initially approving their DIY plans, the underwriter changed his mind and required that the house be 100% complete before closing. The homeowners were still able to do some labor themselves, like painting the trim and installing hardwood floors, but they overestimated the amount of work they would be able to take on and greatly underestimated the time it would take them to complete those tasks. One area they did save considerable money is by handling all the permitting and paperwork themselves. Here are a few more details about this affordable greenhouse. The designer of the plans was Zero Energy Home Plans by Ted Clifton. Their foundation, remember, was a slab-on-grade foundation with R20 horizontal rigid foam insulation beneath the slab and R10 vertical rigid foam on the perimeter of the slab. Their walls were 6.5-inch SIPS panels, which were R26 with siding and drywall. The roof was also made of SIPs that were 10 1/4 inches, and they were R42. They used triple glazed vinyl windows with low E coatings and argon gas. James Hardie siding was used, and asphalt shingles for the roofing. Energy Star appliances and LED and CFL lights were used. Remember, CFL is compact fluorescent lamps, and they're another energy-efficient bulb. And finally, they used paints with no VOCs. So that was our affordable greenhouse in Seattle, Washington, which cost only $114 per square foot. That's it for this week. I hope this case study house gives you some examples of how you can make your efficient house more affordable. I hope you learned as much as I did, and I hope you'll join me again next week for another episode of Build Your House Yourself University. BYHYU. Please remember that the purpose of this podcast is simply to educate and inform. It's not a substitute for professional advice. The information that you hear is based only on the opinions, research, and experiences of my guests and myself. That information might be incomplete, it's subject to change, and it may not apply to your project. In addition, building codes and requirements vary from region to region, so always consult a professional about specific recommendations for your home.